The average person touches their face 3 to 5 times every waking minute. In between, we're touching doorknobs, water fountains, and each other.
Matt.
Mom?
No, go up to your room, honey.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to You'll Probably Agree. For the end of disaster month, or end of the world month, I screwed up the name of my own thing, and I'm just leaving it in. I have El'Ahrai Stanek from the Chicago Indie Critics and the Neon Movie Bunker podcast. Am I right?
That is correct, yeah.
All right, sweet. I didn't screw it up.
No, not a single. You got the name right and everything.
Yeah.
Mwah, perfect. Perfect.
Yeah, excellent. So, yeah, I figured, you know what? We're all talking about the end of the world because of the whole
Seems
pandemic.
relevant.
Yeah. And I'm just like, at first I didn't even talk about it. The first podcast I did, like when the pandemic started, I talked about like movies that make us happy during difficult times. And
Right.
I was just constantly avoiding it. And then I'm finally like, all right, I'm going to finally tackle this. It's so depressing. Like I've just slowly covered things that depress me.
It's like, as a culture, we're going through the 5 stages of grief together, right? And we're just kind of coming up on acceptance that, yep, we're screwed.
I don't know if we're screwed, but temporarily we're screwed.
At least temporarily.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh God. Yeah.
History has borne out that humanity can survive this. So I'm not really worried about end of the world scenarios.
Yeah.
You know, although there is a certain poetry to the fact that an asteroid is going to be passing by the Earth on election day. 2nd
or 3rd, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, it has a 0.43% chance of hitting us. Like, oh, well, that's good, I guess.
And it's a small one. It's only about the size of a refrigerator.
Oh,
that's
really?
Yeah, so
okay.
We'll be okay.
Yeah. Just, let it hit Florida.
Yeah, that would work.
There goes that demographic. All right. It's the end of the world. Who cares? And,
yeah. So you've got 2 movies picked out for us to talk about.
So, yes, talking about the pandemic. Everyone's talking about Contagion and Outbreak. Netflix cashed in on that shit fast. I know that their pandemic documentary came out before the coronavirus. But, like, once the coronavirus came out, they're like, yes, all right. I temporarily canceled my Netflix because of it. And then I, like, resubscribed.
I don't know how giddy they were at the, hey, everybody's dying. Let's really get them. I think they were a little bit happier about their Tiger King catch, but that's,
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, that's part of my video essay. I quickly mentioned that. The one that's coming up. So anyways, let's start with the lesser of the fun movies, or the one that's the most relevant, which is Contagion by Steven Soderbergh. First off, yes, it is chilling to me how accurate this film is. And watching these pandemic films in today's context, the funniest thing is you'll notice things that are also like blatantly obvious, like this wouldn't happen in real life. They wouldn't do this. Like you'd see scenes where doctors are in the hospital with a sick patient. They'll be right in front of the sick patient's face without a mask on. And they're like, "Are you feeling better?" I'm like, "What the? They would never do that."
No.
How did they get all this right in Contagion, but not that? But having said that, how accurate do you think Contagion is?
Incredibly accurate. There are certain things that they changed up, and I would say that there were certain things that were emphasized to make them more dramatic, like the speed with which the disease spreads. In Contagion, it spreads a lot faster than COVID-19 actually does, and how to put this, the symptoms are more dramatic. Seizures and that sort of thing is much more cinematic than no longer being able to taste things or smell things. So, they kind of skew things in ways that benefit the drama of it. But other than that, I mean, looking at it again recently, it's pretty on target as far as, what thing people will panic buy. We saw that happen. Purell disappeared from the shelves. There will be fake news about less than reliable methods of treatment. You know, the Jude Law character and his arc is, you know, frighteningly accurate. There's a lot of truth in that fiction, you know, and it's really kind of disappointing that, you know, this only came out 9 years ago and apparently nobody listened, you know?
Yep. It's like the beginning of every disaster film. The doctor's warning everybody something's going to happen, and then like nobody listens, and then the bad thing happens. It's funny, when this movie came out, if I'm going off my notes here, in the magazine New Scientist, there was an article that says Contagion doesn't skimp on science. This came out in 2011, and it says it's hard to name many Hollywood blockbusters that are invested in the realities of science as Contagion. Although it is by no means flawlessly accurate, it's not a Nova documentary. Contagion has been well fact-checked compared to most science-y / blockbusters. Outbreak. Very few Hollywood productions realistically portray the process of science, both its success and frustrations. That's what makes Contagion unique. Yeah, this is a movie that even the scientific community has kind of praised for a lot of its accuracy. And you have the elements like you mentioned. You know, you have Jude Law, who's exploiting the disease, you know, trying to find for points to give himself attention. A miracle cure, like I think our beloved president's going to do today or tomorrow. I think. You know, like compared to like when we're recording this podcast, it'll probably, when the podcast release, it'll probably have already happened. You know, he's skipping on what the scientists say. He's saying, go into plasma research, we'll be fine. When you had everybody looting, I mean, we had the looting, except it was a little less dramatic. It was like people fighting over toilet paper, right? Which was like kind of like, that's the thing you guys are thinking about? Like, what is everybody eating?
Right. I mean, how bad, if you need to stockpile toilet paper, you should have seen a doctor a while ago. Yeah. This is not something you should mess with. Yeah.
Take it from someone who's formerly obese that lost like 38 pounds. Like,
congratulations.
Even I didn't need that much toilet paper. They need to know how to wipe properly. And
Charmin needs to put out some PSAs featuring those bears. Really, you know, put the brand to work. Make sure that everybody's got a clear idea of how to clean yourself from the Charmin bears.
Yeah. Don't stand, sit and wet. But okay, that's a little too detailed. But.
Yeah. Getting into a different genre of film there, I think.
This is like the Farley brothers directed.
Right. Although I will be honest with you,
Oscar now.
if the Farley brothers were to do their take on Contagion, I would totally go see that.
That would be amazing.
I would be there in a heartbeat. Or Keenan Ivory Wayans, if he were to give it the scary movie treatment.
Oh God.
And I'm certain that I'm not alone in wanting to see a movie like that. I think there's going to come a point in the not too distant future where we're going to want to laugh at ourselves a lot.
Oh yeah, I think there's going to be more farces, more. Yeah, I really want to see a sequel to Idiocracy at this point. Just make it about the pandemic, you know, like how they got here. You know? Although I was explaining the monologue, you can always make a prequel. Who cares? You know.
I'm just wondering, like, what other comedic teams? Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. I'm trying to. Yeah, a comedic theme.
Yeah, a comedic like.
My freedom, my mask. You know.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. Just.
You could just have people just like refusing to wear seatbelts or, you know, any random safety thing. I mean, I don't know what you can write because real life is just so bizarre right now. Like, you can't even like how do you write parody at this point? Like, parody is already sort of an obvious category to write in, but now it's like,
how do you do it?
Yeah, it's so horrible now.
Well, I think part of what this whole situation this year has done is giving us a chance to really take a look at ourselves and how we actually act and how we behave towards ourselves, towards one another, in a microcosm, in a macrocosm, and the whole thing. And I think that everybody's coming to the realization that we're all silly. We're all just absurd. None of us should really be taken 100% seriously because look at us. Look at how we're behaving. So, you know, I think, like, shortly before everything happened, the movie Cats came out, right?
Yeah.
And Cats is not a good movie, but there is no thought process that went into the paperwork into getting Cats made. You know, you find a beloved stage production, you find a fantastic director who's got Oscar cred, you get a cast of all sorts of talented people, and you still end up with this, you know? So
Yes. It originally was supposed to be like an animated film, which would have been way better.
Yeah, no, well, it would have been way different. I don't know that better is quite the right word. It may not have been quite as much a nightmare.
Yes.
You know, it might, but I think I'm actually kind of fond of the movie as it exists.
Yeah, Cats is one of those, like, I know I'm veering off topic, but it is like one of those sort of odd things where it's so bizarre you have to show your friends to it. I mean, before the pandemic started, the music box in Chicago was going to have a thing where you can drink along to the movie while you watch it. But no, I mean, all the things they get accurate outside of Jude Law manipulating everyone and the looting, you know, let's see, you had...
contact tracing,
fomites, you know, people were now the CDC and the FDA says if you touch something, it won't hurt you. It kind of lasts on surfaces, but not really. But it's like, I think I'll just carry around a bottle of hand sanitizer with me regardless.
Seriously, washing your hands isn't that much of an imposition, and it does 90% of the work of keeping. That's a made up statistic, by the way. I am not a doctor, but washing your hands on a regular basis and doing it thoroughly with hot water is a huge deal in keeping yourself and others healthy.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Like, at first we watched, I don't know if you've seen the comments section of that scene in The Aviator where DiCaprio's Howard Hughes is washing his hands so much he like cuts it, and then he wouldn't get the door for the guy in the crutches. And people are writing in the comment section like, you know, when this movie came out, oh, he's crazy. In 2020, I see a man
he's
of
relatable.
Taste.
I get that. I understand where he's coming from.
Like we've all kind of turned into Howie Mandel in a way. I don't know what is it with guys with Howard Hughes, Howie Mandel, that all like are afraid of germs. But right now, Howie Mandel's like, I told you so. You know,
I was ahead of the curve. God damn it!
You all made fun of me for my fist bumps. What do you think now? Huh?
Yep. Well, and that's the other thing. The old tradition of shaking hands, right?
Yeah.
How long is it going to be before that comes back, or will that come back?
Yeah.
It's.
I do it, but then I pour on hand sanitizer right away.
I've seen people do like foot taps.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, or you could just say, hey. You don't necessarily need to come into physical contact with everybody you meet.
Yeah, it's weird. I came into work for the first time in a long time recently, after a lot of deliberation and negotiation with my boss. And like people wanted to like hug me and stuff right away. And I'm like, it hurts me not to do that. You know, it's that scene where Matt Damon, he sees that little, that kid who's like dating his daughter in the movie. And he's like, I just want to give my flowers. He's like, I can't take those either. I can't let you inside. It's kind of like inadvertently hilarious, that scene, but I think it was supposed to be.
It's again, it seems like it's absurd, but
now it's not. Yeah,
it's not absurd. That's the way it is.
Yeah, and I mean, the scariest thing that the movie got right is when Lawrence Fishburne is on that news show. And he says we have to practice social distancing. You know, we have to stay 8 feet apart. We have to wash our hands. I'm like, what? Oh my God! And now I think, if I'm correct, I read this way back, but Steven Soderbergh is in charge of how they're going to resume film production.
Right. Yeah.
I'm wondering, even though he made this movie, if that's the right choice or not, or if they should I don't know if he's working with epidemiologists who worked on the film at the same time, or what the case is with that.
I don't know exactly what the case is, but I would hope that he's working with epidemiologists. The team that worked with him on the film, I would hope that he'd reach out to them and say, hey, how do we do this safely? Which,
Yeah.
you know, is only sensible to have somebody, to put somebody in charge of finding out the answers and going in and getting in touch with the actual experts and, okay, making a plan from there.
Yeah. Getting in touch with scientists, not
Not the My Pillow guy, no.
Yeah, not the My Pillow guy, or I
Mhm.
was thinking of the voodoo doctor lady who believes
Yeah,
in
with the
ghosts or
demon
whatever.
sperm.
That's it, the demon sperm. Yeah.
Yep.
Demon sperm is Cleo. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's terrible.
Again, you know, how crazy is this year that we can say things like demon sperm and we both know what news
what we're
story
saying, just like
we're talking
naturally.
about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Weird.
I'm wondering, are things in the movie worse than they were in real life, or is it the other way around where real life is worse than they were in the movie?
I would say, just, you know, but looking at how real life is playing out and, you know, having seen the movie, I would say that they're pretty equal footing. The overall, the big story is we make it through.
Yeah.
But when you narrow it down, you know, I don't know that anybody's seeing it as a cheerful story for the Gwyneth Paltrow character.
It's Gwyneth
Right.
Paltrow. I think Goop started the virus of that movie.
As absurd as her ideas are,
Yeah.
and oh, good Lord, some of the dumbest woo-woo I have ever heard.
Yeah.
I still don't know that I'd want to see somebody peel back her skull.
No. I wasn't like, yeah.
No.
No. I'm not that vindictive. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's middle ground.
Or maybe I am. No. Who knows? We'll never know. But yeah, like, to me, I think like real life in some ways is a lot worse than it was in the movie, because like outside of the severity of the disease, which an outbreak, it's like times a million compared to this.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the severity of it, the day right away, that's obviously worse than it is in real life. But when it comes to how long it took them to find a cure, it took them like, what, 136 days? That's like maybe 4 months or something.
Yeah, we've been at this a little
was
longer than that.
Yeah, we're in this like 6 months, and it's not going to be until like the end of 2022 that it's available for everybody. You know, like when they went on lockdown, I think they like were not trying to tell everybody about it right away. We found out about it right away, and we've been in lockdown for such a long period of time. We don't even know what day it is.
The thing is, we've been in an ineffective lockdown. A lockdown only works if everybody does it. Yep. And not everybody did it. And we'd all have to do it at the same time for the same duration. Yeah. That's where we screwed up. We would have to all go, okay, we're done for 2020. We're all going to go home and just, you know, watch Netflix for the remainder of the year for however long it would take for to truly flatten the curve.
Yeah.
Whereas opposed, we kind of just went boop on the curve's head. Not an effective strategy.
Yeah, and even when we temporarily locked down, it was making a difference, and then we all came out again. And that was one thing. The movie didn't think about, you know, the economy or people's jobs or people who didn't want to mask up. It did because obviously there was much more faith in humanity, I think, at that time of the film. And there was we didn't have sort of the inconceivable predicament that we're living in today.
I think in the movie there's a lot more faith in institutions than there actually is currently. You know, I think that in the movie Contagion, the CDC and the World Health Organization were able to be effective and do what they had to do because people trusted them based on the reputation of it's the frickin' CDC. Yes. Right. Whereas in 2020, things have gotten so politically polarized that it every single little thing becomes an us or them battle, which is unproductive.
Yeah, it's quite insane, but it's like I don't even know when this is gonna end, and they say we hear Fauci saying, oh, we're gonna get a vaccine by the end of the year, but it doesn't mean it's widely available. And I think, didn't they ask in the movie, like, who's gonna get the vaccine first? And it's like, now there's an element I would love to see in the film, people tearing each other apart to get that vaccine.
Well, they do cover that in the film. There's the lottery system.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then they break
through
into Lawrence Fishburne's house, and they try to grab it from him. And I'm like, it's terrible, but I don't know if I had a family.
It's terrible, but I can understand the decisions that led them to those spots.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it really compelling drama, is that you can understand and you can relate to even the Jude Law character, who is awful, is relatable on some level. You understand where he's coming from. And that's one of the big positive qualities of Contagion, is that you can find yourself in any one of these characters and any one of these sub stories and be like, okay, yeah, I understand. I get it. I see why they're doing that. It's not like somebody's just, well, I was just bitten by a monkey from another country, and I think I'm going to go to the dance club now. What?
I can't wait to get an Outbreak. That movie's so fun. That's weird to say about Outbreak, but no, once you watch it.
Oh, it's a lot of fun.
Fun.
There are so many great performances in it. Like, Dustin Hoffman is really, he's aiming for the back of the house with that thing. He's chewing the scenery and he's having a great time. Donald Sutherland is doing the same. Rene Russo is relatively moderate, but then you have Morgan Freeman in there just as like the calm. But between Hoffman and Sutherland, they're just like really reaching out there, as big as they can.
And that movie goes for a 10 just from the opening title sequence, like enormous explosion, Dustin Hoffman, Morgan Freeman, Outbreak. You're like, whoa, okay,
which
Roni.
No, I'm fine.
That was a bit like Joker when he's choking on his laughter. A
little bit. But Outbreak is such a gleeful time at the movies because it's Contagion minus any of the conscience. It's just like, all right, let's Jerry Bruckheimer this bad boy and see how fast we can go. And it's fun.
Getting back to Contagion, because I will get an Outbreak and talk about how fun, because if I start now, I'm just my ADD will kick in. And I'll go off the rails.
My conversations when I'm talking with somebody, I bounce all over the place anyway. So
as someone who's seen myself do it, I'm like, okay, I have to get back in. So we talked about, like, what do you think about the movie becoming popular again? Because I
think that's great.
I
think that's fantastic.
It was scary for me at first. I'm like, I don't want to talk about this film. And like on my YouTube suggestion, it's like, hey, do you want to see Gwyneth Paltrow get her skull sliced open? Like, no, I don't. And more like, I'm thinking that's going to be me.
Fair. But, I think I saw an interesting headline that said that horror movie fans are dealing with this pandemic better emotionally than non-horror movie fans. And I think part of the reason for that, and I will tie this back into Contagion, don't worry. Part of the reason I think that that's the case is that we horror movie fans are used to just, okay, how bad can it get? Let's see how bad it can get. And so we're used to, okay, bad news following bad news following bad news, which really kind of describes certain sequences in Contagion too. Bad news following bad news following bad news. Contagion is ultimately a horror film. and a really effective one, because so much of it is grounded in a world that we recognize and understand. And now we're seeing, oh wow, how relevant it really is. So I think people going back and watching it, and aside from learning things like how to wash your hands and how to not steal your toilet paper, I think that it's really good for people to take a look at it and see, okay, yes, this is bad, but we can make it through this if we follow the right advice.
Yes, if we get leadership as well, we can. And that movie avoided the politics, because you think
did.
Life and death, it wouldn't be political, but at first it scared the hell out of me, like, because everything was like Contagion, end of the world, blah blah blah, and this is when the pandemic first started. So I just didn't want to, I just kind of was like, let me just go to my happy place, let me watch my Star Wars, let me watch my whatever, and it was constantly shoved down my throat. And then eventually, when I kind of eased into the pandemic, as bizarre as that is to say, but this is 2020, as an educational piece, it's actually a very useful picture. I'm not saying steal a scientist in your little village and force her to give all of your people the cure.
No, but
like Lau did, or I don't know his character. I just remember it was Lau in Dark Knight.
Right.
But that was a racist ass role too. Like, I'm good with calculation. Like, goddamn, Christopher Nolan, really?
Yeah. Christopher Nolan has issues.
Yeah. Oh man.
Best way to put it. Dude's got issues.
Well, I'm seeing Tenet soon, so I'll be dead. No. I've been at Music Box. They know what they're doing there. There's a whole article about it. Yeah. But no, like, as an educational piece, you really kind of get an idea of how to keep yourself protected. You kind of see the mistakes that we've already made and where we can improve. Because as nutty as Matt Damon seemed, he was right, and he was doing the right things. And even when his daughter was freaking out, he's just like, just stay calm. This will be all right in the end. And he was validated in the end.
Right.
I kind of had this funny thought in the end when they were having the prom dance between his daughter and her boyfriend, that like Matt Damon was just going to go full Jason Bourne and beat the shit out of the boyfriend. Just grab a fire hydrant. Oh, Dad, what are you doing? He tried to kiss you.
He was just holding my hand.
Yeah.
Not in my house.
Yeah. I mean, that was a moment where I was actually rooting for Matt Damon to beat up that kid when he took his mask off and he was trying to kiss his daughter, like, when nothing was proven. And he just, like, grabs him by the back of the shirt, and he's got this big-ass shotgun in his hand. And he just tells him to get the hell out. Yeah. But no, I'm glad that it's popular again. I just wish it wasn't as popular as quickly. I'm like, let me just digest this first before diving straight into horror movies. Yeah. But I love the point you make about the horror movie fans, because I have a friend of mine who I love dearly, who he is sort of the biggest nihilist that you'll meet. And he's just like, yeah, I'm handling this fine. It's whatever. Like, it's okay. And you're like, yeah, he's kind of right. But at the same time, it's like, I kind of wish I was so negative so I could have handled it as well. Which now I'm handling it better. Like, it's actually kind of been beneficial to me with this pandemic. How's the pandemic been for you? Just to have my ADD kick in a bit.
It's been. I've only had one scare where I've had to be tested. So that's and I didn't have it, so that's good.
Same.
But overall, there has been nothing that has happened that I don't see that's overcomable.
Yeah.
It sucks not to be able to go to the movies. It sucks not to be able to go to a concert or to a bar or whatever. It sucks not being able to have a whole bunch of people over for a movie night.
Yeah.
But you know what? I can withstand a year or so of that.
Yeah.
It sucks, but that doesn't mean that this is how things are going to be. It's just how things are right now.
Absolutely. I always find the term "the new normal" a little advantageous. It should be called the temporary normal.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, status quo is always in flux.
Yeah.
We've just got like a really weird dip going on right now where as a culture and a society, we are harvesting a whole bunch of different things that we've been sowing for the past couple of decades. And now we get to see how those ideas play out in reality.
Yeah. Not good, no. As a dramatic piece of work, you know, a piece of fiction, something that you can emotionally latch onto, what did you think of the movie?
Of Contagion? Oh, I loved it.
Mm.
Loved it.
Mm.
It was from the first time I saw it back in 2010. Was it 2010? Yeah.
I think so, yeah, because that article
September
from
of 20
the Science, Nova Science, whatever, it came out like 2011, so it could have been 2010, yeah.
Yeah, it came out in September of 2010, and I immediately latched onto it. I thought that Jennifer L did a fantastic job in it.
2011, yes.
Okay, all right.
It's close. We got it.
Yeah. Jennifer L did a fantastic job in it.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
You know, this was the first time that I saw her really sharing the screen on that level with actors of like Lawrence Fishburne and Marion Cotillard's level, and really the cast in that thing is phenomenal. You know, it is probably the best cast big budget disaster film that I've seen. I'm kind of like in the middle with it. I think it's pinpoint accurate. As a horror film, it's horrifying, although now I'm like, wow, they had it easy, you know, when I watch it. I wish they cheered this, like, because like if we were like Contagion, we'd all be out again and talking about this like this is an old reference. I felt like it was lacking an emotional center, a core to it. Like, I guess you could say Matt Damon was that, but you don't really know much about him or his daughter. And I get the movie's more about the disease and it's an ensemble piece, but there was like no one I could latch onto. Like, everyone just kind of felt more like an example. Like, this is something you would show in a classroom in 2022. Rather than, you know, something you would. Well, I'm sure it will be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Rather than something that would be shown, you know, as a dramatic piece of effective work. It's certainly scary, but outside of that, like, there's no one I really cared about. I really wanted to see more, like, I mean, to do that horrible fan thing. Like, if I were to write it, I would have loved to have seen more focus on Jennifer Ailes' character, because she's the one who develops the vaccine. You know, like, her, you know, she has that emotional scene with her father who's on basically his deathbed, but, you know, she takes the mask off. She says, it's okay. You know, I found the cure. And it's like, I would have loved to have seen the trials and tribulations that she went through, rather than just kind of like a bullet point study of what would happen.
And I definitely get that. I think overall the main character, instead of this being a character piece specifically about Matt Damon's character or about Jennifer L's character, it is more the story of humanity versus virus.
Oh, absolutely.
You know? And I like that. I'm personally a fan of that sort of point counterpoint, you know, where, humanity has to get their act together to face whatever this happens to be, you know, whatever the disaster of the week is. And any other year, disaster of the week would be kind of a funny thing. And 2020 is just like, that's what we have, disaster of the week. But no, I actually am A-okay with it not having too many front and center characters, because then it lets me kind of view it a little bit more at a distance and see it from more of a larger canvas, big picture sort of presentation. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it could have done a little bit of both. Like, I didn't want there to just be like one main character you focus on, but just like a little more on, because it just seemed to frantically be cutting between each plot line, and it was just racing to get to the end of the film where you already know there's going to be a cure. So before I could even invest in anyone at all, it was just like, oh okay, we're here now. Okay. And like at the end, like, imagine if this pandemic never happened, right? And this was just like any film,
Mm-hmm.
I think, if you take that sort of relevance out of it, it's just kind of like an okay movie. And, it's a
It
3 out of a 4-star film, to use that notion. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can see that. It's definitely not the sort of thing that people normally associate with Steven Soderbergh,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
sort of viral epidemic film.
Mm,
But I think because he does that sort of thing where he steps back and he looks at all of the systems in place. He
yeah.
did that in Traffic. He did that in this film.
Mm,
He did that a little bit in Solaris. It's an
yeah.
interesting vantage point,
Yeah. Yeah.
But I can see your point. I don't think that this would have been anybody's favorite Soderbergh movie.
Yeah. 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 I mean, oddly,
It's really good. It's
Yeah.
great, but
Yeah, I would see Soderbergh's an amazing artist because like he constantly is looking at new technological innovations. I like the way how this movie was shot. Like I could tell they shot that on like a red epic, and like they used a lot of natural lighting
yeah,
to give this a naturalistic feel without diving too much into the pseudo documentary sort of style, where it's not trying to use a shaky cam or it's not trying to look so realistic. It looks kind of
artificial.
artificial. Like you don't have the like total natural lighting where you don't even have exposure on it, so it doesn't look like the lighting on me, for instance. But it just kind of gets a little bit of that look. Like Soderbergh always, I think he made like 2 movies now on an iPhone. He did like Unsane on an iPhone,
Which was great.
yes, fantastic. And he did a friend of mine sent me a link to it. I never heard of it, but it was some sort of basketball movie, and apparently he did that all like on an iPhone.
Oh yeah. What was the?
Yeah, I'd have to go through my chat to find it. I wouldn't know, but it's like he's always sort of ahead of the curve when it comes to technology, when it comes to storytelling. I think like I can't remember the name of the movie at the top of my head, but I remember seeing it at like a local art theater at the time. And the trailer was just a bunch of baby dolls being made. And then the end film, it starred non-actors, and it was like this murder mystery. Like he cast some woman who like works in like a KFC or something, to be in it. And he's always sort of outside the box and incredibly visual. So a little bit of an auteur director.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And an excellent one at that. As far as pushing the technology, I think he's one of the guys. It's in the traditional drama area. Him and David Fincher are the two that really push the technology forward.
Oh yeah.
In movies that that people don't necessarily think of as being very technological movies, as opposed to like the guys like George Lucas or Robert Rodriguez or James Cameron, who they're also really pushing the technology, but they're pushing it in science fiction and genre work where people are more immediately aware of the fact that the technology is being used.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a little subtler, the uses that Soderbergh and Fincher find.
Yeah, like Soderbergh isn't kind of making like a huge statement like I'm shooting my movie on this, check it out, and
Right.
Fincher doesn't either. They've kind of switched to digital.
Yeah.
When it was when it was sort of starting to make its debut to the world in a way. I think like episode 2, Attack of the Clones was like the first huge budget feature.
Yep, it was the first
shot on. I remember the digital project. I had to go to some theater to see it on a digital projector because I saw it projected on 35 mil, and I'm like, I want to see what it looks like on digital. And it was like the crispest, sharpest looking thing I've seen at the time.
It's pretty cool. Here's a fun trivia question for you. Attack of the Clones was the first big budget, entirely digital studio film. What was the first low budget, entirely digital studio film?
I actually wonder what that is.
Jason X from New Line Cinema.
Jason X? Was that after Jason Goes to Space, or is that the one where he's in space?
that is Jason Goes to Space.
Oh my God, Jason X! Wow.
Yeah, and it considering the age of the film, and they did a pretty darn good job with that.
Wow. Now that's yeah. There's a whole. I think I did do a thing on film versus digital, but I did it with like a non-expert when I was first doing my show. So he's just kind of regurgitating random knowledge,
Hey,
and I'm just like the guy who knew everything about it. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I remember at the time. I think they shot that on like a Sony FX 170 or something like that. I don't know the model number. But like,
mhm.
yeah, like the image wasn't as good as then. There was a whole lot of controversy to it, but especially like with the
Yep.
movie that was shot, for a large majority on green screen, being able to just dump the footage right away instead of taking it to the lab and edit it
Yeah.
is incredibly beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
And with a movie like Star Wars, or the way George Lucas made Star Wars, I think various aspects like your black levels or your depth of field isn't going to matter as much
No.
as it would with like the newer Star Wars films, where a lot of it's done naturally on set.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with the very subtle jab in Star Wars convention before Force Awakens came out, where they have Mark Hamill saying real sets, practical effects. Like, oh, I wonder what that's supposed to mean.
Yeah, I am never going to say one is better than the other.
Yeah,
Give me both.
I
Give me
think it's
both
yeah.
well done, and I'm happy.
Yeah, I think it really depends on the story that you're telling and the
Yeah.
kind of filmmaker that you are.
Mm-hmm.
With Nolan film, I think if Nolan shot, actually, Tenet might work on digital, to be honest.
Yeah, let's be honest. There's not a single thing that Nolan has done that wouldn't have worked on digital. There isn't.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I could see Dark Knight on digital,
Oh
like
yeah.
on an IMAX screen, for instance.
Oh yeah.
But
Sure.
although the light range would look phenomenal on it,
Mhm.
like the Chicago streets, because the amount of light you can get on a digital camera compared to a film camera
Right.
is day and night.
Well, and just having seen what Fincher has done
Yeah,
with strictly digital workflows, it's comparable to what Nolan does.
Mhm.
The two of them both have their very own signature sort of look. They only have their own signature sort of visual textures, but
Mhm.
there's nothing about either one that says that it has to be digital or it has to be
Mhm.
analog.
Mhm.
I think that I understand the
Yeah.
film, the urge to go with film. It's what
Yeah.
he's always shot with. There's a certain romanticism to it for him.
Mhm.
Great,
Mhm.
no problem. I get that.
Yeah.
But there's, to say that one is hands down better than the other it's all in the way you use the tool.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. And if Nolan could find a way to use digital where it would be just as effective as seeing Inception on digital than it is on a 70 millimeter print, because you could probably have something to the equivalent of 70 millimeter. I mean, you get like
Absolutely.
6K with some cameras, and although like
8K
movies, yeah, exactly, you could get 8K, and even with movies that where they look like gigantic television screens. That's just the way the technology is shifting. And
Right.
Soderbergh's ahead of that. I mean, I shot something recently on my iPhone, and my boss is like, "You using an iPhone?" And I'm like, "The
Yeah.
picture quality is incredible. Like, it's fine that I shoot it on this. It looks better than the
Mhm.
cameras we have now. Which is why I'm buying new cameras until it becomes obsolete in 5 years, and you get another one." But switching back to the old days of film.
Back to the old days.
Yeah, the good old days, because
Go-
now all we have is nostalgia to rely on. And
We're heading into 95 to talk about Outbreak, aren't we?
yeah.
Your town is being quarantined.
We got 19 dead. You got 100 more infected. It's spreading like a brush fire.
What are you talking about?
If one of them's got it, then 10 of them have got it now. And if one of them gets out of Cedar Creek, we have a very interesting problem.
I was scared to see this movie for the longest time because I was like, oh God, I don't need to see something else about a horrible pandemic that's going to be completely accurate. All that. And first off, the movie isn't that accurate, but there are some parts that are very accurate.
Yeah.
Little parts. But it's like, it is just as 90s and Roland Emmerich-esque as you can get. Michael Bay. This one is William, the guy who did Air Force One.
Wolfgang Peterson.
Wolfgang Peterson, thank you. I was trying to not say Wolfgang Puck. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he catered it.
Yeah. I mean, Yeah, like just as I was saying earlier, you know exactly what Outbreak's going to be. I started laughing hilariously right away when there's this big, horrible early CGI explosion where they bomb a village where people are infected, and they cut to a little cutaway, the monkey, and then just in big bold letters it has the name of the actors, and then it just says Outbreak, and I'm like, oh, I'm in for this kind of movie. Okay.
Yeah.
And just like childhood memories just started flowing through me, seeing Independence Day and them blowing up the White House, and it's just like, oh, I love this level of kind of ridiculous production. You know, the hammy love story between Dustin Hoffman's character and Rene Russo, like, it doesn't work at all. And that's why I love it, you know, because, you know, they're just trying to have this is probably why my whole emotional core argument for Contagion is inaccurate, because we've seen what they try to do with an emotional core with Outbreak, and it's so ridiculous.
Well,
there's an outbreak happening. Let's talk about the dogs that you want to keep. Like, oh my God, really?
Right. You end up falling into the screenwriter falls into the trap of trying to minimize the number of characters that you have to know.
Yeah.
Then, so that not only is she going to be his love interest, but she's also going to be the one who comes up with this really risky option as far as treating the disease, and then there's going to be conflict over that, and then there's going to be mixed in with, and then Cuba Gooding Jr. gets involved, and it just spirals out of control. You know, it's the sort of thing that you mentioned, Roland Emmerich. Yeah. His movies have this all the time where, oh yeah, I just happened to be the president's wife, and I bumped into the girlfriend of the pilot's, you know, best friend, and now we all have to band together. And it's like, really?
And the president is an Air Force pilot, and the girlfriend of the guy is a stripper. You know?
Yep.
Who becomes a doctor in the sequel?
Right.
Yeah. So you know what? They're not lying when they say they're getting those dollar bills for their education.
Hey, you do what you gotta to pay for education. I understand that.
Hey, if I can be a male, I'm getting in my male stripper body right now, so I'm working towards that. I'll just be like one of those like drive-through strip clubs that they have now, with like the plexiglass in between.
Isn't it weird that there are strip clubs that are advertising, you know, keep your mask on so they can take it all off? Doesn't that strike you as weird?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Like, well, weird. So they can get infected, but not me.
Well, no, because they're leaving their mask on.
Yeah.
They're just taking everything else off.
Except the mask,
Right. So
if you're a butterface, it really works in your favor.
Well, I guess it could.
Yeah.
See, there's a bright side to everything. We've come back to Monty Python and the wise words of always look on the bright side of life.
Always look on the bright side of your life. Doo-doo, global pandemic.
Yep.
But goddamn, I mean, the funniest thing with that movie is, like, what's your favorite cheesy 90s element in the movie?
It would be the guy who transports the monkey. You know,
the animal rights guy?
Yeah, the guy who is so incredibly... It's like they said, you know what, we want somebody who looks like they would have been the lead in Singles.
Yeah.
We want him for, you know, he couldn't quite make it in that cast.
That was Patrick Dempsey?
Yeah, it was.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I met that guy.
he brought us the Ebola monkey. He sold us out to the Decepticons. What's up, dude?
Yeah.
What's
I met
up?
him on Transformers 3 to be a name-dropping douchebag. But yeah, that's funny. And by the way, like, one of the most gorgeous people I've ever met in my life.
I can believe that.
Yeah.
Dude's a handsome-looking man.
Yeah. I mean, especially like little midget me, like, and him towering above me. But yeah, his character, he kind of seems like, you know, one of the, hey man, we gotta save everyone. And yeah, he's got like the ridiculous earrings on.
The flannel tied around his waist with the leather jacket.
Yeah.
He looks like he could take over for Uncle Joey on Full House if they need to, in just a heartbeat.
Yeah. And then of course, like, when he comes back from the airport, his like face is all red and he's sweating. And like him and his girlfriend just go like full like mouth on making out. Like,
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
god.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, just the stupid decisions of the characters are fantastic.
Well, and again, that's part of the comfort of these sorts of movies is you can
Yeah.
watch it and you can go, okay, that's stupid.
Yeah.
I know that's stupid. I'd never do that. Even though
Yeah.
perhaps reality tells a different story.
Well, in reality, I was thinking like all these people are so selfish. They're coughing without even covering their mouths and touching everything. And they were doing that times 10, but they were doing the same shit in Contagion. Like when they're talking to the one guy on the bus, she's like, "You're infected with the disease. Get off there right now." He's like, "Okay." He's like coughing. He's not covering his eyes, touching like every fucking railing in the bus. There's a lady who walks right up to Matt Damon and she coughs right on him. And then she says, "Help me." Like, no, I'm not going to fucking help you. You just like infected me.
Mm-hmm.
If he wasn't Ellie from The Last of Us and was like fucking unable to get infected, but yeah.
Right.
Oh man, now that game came out at the wrong time.
Or the absolute right time.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. A little bit of both. It's like I think like if it was hopeful like the first one, people would have liked it a little more.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
Probably.
it was just but yeah, there is that. Oh, I love how like every single scene between Morgan Freeman and Dustin Hoffman, I just imagine the shooting schedule to that. It's like interior, Morgan Freeman's office, dialogue, screaming, 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 and they just do that for like 2 days straight.
It's another day of screaming at Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah. Because Dustin Hoffman, I love that character because he's like, it's like I wish there were people in real life who were like that. They're like, "God damn it, you gotta shut everything down, bring everyone home, they're gonna die." And you just wish someone would come up to the president and do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I get the impression that Fauci kind of did.
I mean, I think he's being careful because he doesn't want to get fired. I mean, that guy has the toughest job in the world.
Oh, yeah.
It's like he's got to remain calm. He's got to not piss off his boss to get fired, who threatens to fire him, and he's also got to tell the truth while defending lies.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Not to mention pat his head and rub his tummy at the same time too.
Yes.
Which
after this is over, Dr. Fauci needs like whatever he wants.
Right. If anybody's earned a vacation,
yes,
him and all of the people who are working at those hospitals, they deserve something more than just the signs that we put up saying, heroes work here. I mean, which is great. Yes.
Yeah.
Though it's great. Let's recognize them in some other ways too, though.
Yeah. I was speaking to a nurse and she was saying to me, like, I wish I wasn't called a hero because, like, honestly, I don't even want to be in here. I'm just stuck here.
Right.
And it's like, if I could find another way of making money, I'd get out of here. And I'm like, yeah, I would too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that movie has so many great elements.
It does.
I'm wondering if the over-the-topness of the film helps or hurts it. For me, in a historical context, it helps it. It hurts it in terms of, being taken seriously as a film.
You know what? I don't think it hurts it too much in the terms of being taken seriously as a film because I don't know that it was ever designed to be.
That is very true. That is very true. Yeah.
It's something that should be taken seriously on the same level of as Jurassic Park.
Yes.
Which is brilliant pop culture entertainment.
Yeah.
But that's all it really is pop culture entertainment. And, Outbreak is really good pop culture entertainment. You get to see some great actors really pull out all the stops. You get an entertaining story, some thrills, some scary sequences and moments like that. And at the end, you're like, oh, okay, great.
Yeah. What do you think, to kind of bounce back on a Contagion question, relating to this question, what did the movie get right?
Well, it got right that Dustin Hoffman has to yell.
He wasn't 16! Sorry.
It gets right the conflict in the way that the government tries to manage the situation.
Mm-hmm. Try to hide it, and then, just kill all those people over there. Yeah.
Just how do we hide it? Do we let everybody know? And this isn't the first movie to take that sort of approach to it. The Crazies by not John Carpenter, George A. Romero, back in the 70s, did the same sort of thing. And David Cronenberg in the 70s did something similar with Shivers and with Rabid. You know, so there's precedent for that sort of, okay, here's the bad situation. The higher ups want to minimize, you know, the good of the many outweighs the good of the few.
Yeah.
Which, from a governmental standpoint, makes perfect sense. You want to make sure that the majority of the world stays safe. However, if you're one of the few just, you know, walled up and left for dead, you know, so, or in the case of Outbreak, blown up.
Yeah. Oh God, I guess originally when doing my little IMDb trivia, I guess the original ending was they were gonna blow them up, and the test audience hated that. Which I don't usually approve of test audiences, but in that case, yeah, that would have been really bad if they had that ending.
I have a feeling that if at the time that I saw Outbreak, if I saw it with that original ending, I would have loved it. Loved it. I would have been, and I would have been talking up that movie and saying, you know, there's this really great movie. It's such a positive, uplifting experience. Just trying to catfish people into going to see it, because that is the exact sort of pull the rug out from under the audience gut punch that I tend to respond well to.
Yeah, it would have. I don't know. It would have felt. There's a term for it. Someone did a whole essay on the humor of The Last Jedi, and there's a term where you have something that's thematically completely against your scene. That's kind of like a goof, and it would have been like a bathos is what they call it. It would have felt a bit like a bathos if they did that, or it would have been just kind of like it would have gone against like the whole theme of the film, because the whole movie's striving towards a hopeful message in the end. And, you know, you're supposed to cheer and be happy in the end. Like, I think if it just ended, it's like Independence Day, if it just ended with the aliens winning. You would have been like, what? Why?
And when you consider that this movie also came out the same fall as Seven, you know, which had the opposite sort of thing. Test audience, they were going to reshoot the ending and redo it, but Pitt and Fincher held strong and said, no. This ending is why we want to do this story. Yeah. So. But
Seven isn't a hopeful film. That's just
no.
That's well, different. Yeah.
An argument could be made that it is hopeful because ultimately the character of Somerset does stick around to be helpful and try to help the police out. But it's not a victorious ending.
And Gwyneth Paltrow gets decapitated in it.
That's the theme. When bad stuff happens, just stay away from Gwyneth Paltrow. You know it's going to come after her.
Yeah, it's like every horrible thing that happens is going to happen to Gwyneth Paltrow first. I wonder how she killed Iron Man. Yeah.
For some reason now I'm picturing like Jennifer Aniston scrolling through Netflix going, I'm going to watch Contagion again.
What did she do to Jennifer Aniston?
They fought over Brad Pitt a lot.
Yeah. Wait, was that Angelina Jolie? Or
her too.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Dude gets around.
Oh, I mean, he's Brad Pitt,
right?
It's like it's inhuman how good looking he is. I don't know how. It's not fair, and he's a nice guy too. It's not fair.
Yeah. But, you know, such is life.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm glad he's a nice guy. I'm glad. I was watching Once Upon a Time in Hollywood recently, and I'm like, man,
such a fun movie.
I would do like one of those acid cigarettes with him, you know.
Just to like hear some of the production stories that Brad Pitt would be able to tell would be interesting, you know.
Putting up with David Fincher for years and getting along with his stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. So my ADD went off. But what was my question again? All right, but no, if you're talking about,
I don't know.
Oh yeah, what it got right. You know, the thing that the movie got right is you know, the whole airborne disease sort of thing, you know?
Yeah.
And the one scene that really, I want to turn this into a GIF so bad, is when the guy is in the movie theater and then he coughs and the camera follows his germs into the woman laughing.
Oh my God, yes.
And then he goes up to the front of the line in the movie theater and he's coughing on every single person, asks for like water and fall. I'm like, I think I posted that on like Facebook. I'm like, this is what happens when Tenet comes out next week, you know?
Yeah. I kind of have to wonder at the insistence on releasing it to theaters.
I think Nolan and Warner Brothers are in the same boat with it.
Oh yeah, Warner Brothers has got so much money invested in it, they have to. And Nolan is an old-fashioned guy. He likes his theatrical production, his theatrical release. So
yeah, and it's like I understand that. I mean, when I watched Inception on the big screen, it looked incredible.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of superseded a lot of its clunky dialogue, which is 90% awkward exposition.
It's got some clunky dialogue. Some awesome ideas, though.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's what kind of is the movie's saving grace. I just wish it wouldn't tell me about its ideas. Luckily, I heard Tenet doesn't do that as much, which I'm like, thank God.
Interstellar, I think, is a really good example. Interstellar did a really good job of exploring the ideas with showing, not telling.
Yeah, it did a little with the bookcase thing, but I was okay with that. I'm in the minority. I was cool with because the idea wasn't love saved him. The idea was that she loved him, and through her connection to him, and because she was a scientist, she knew Morse code and she knew all this other stuff that made her communicate with him.
Yeah.
But it's saying
pretty clever.
Love saved us.
Pretty clever.
It's like, you know, but
well. Oh, come on. You were just talking about the uplifting, hopeful message of Outbreak.
Exactly.
Let's have a movie where love saves us.
Exactly. And I was fine with that. The way it was verbalized, I thought kind of made me cringe. But initially I cried when I saw it because I'm a pussy. But
nothing wrong with that. Movie hit you emotionally. You react to it emotionally. That's the way it goes.
I'd rather be a pussy than an asshole. I'm just thinking of that speech in Team America.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Now we're in Team America territory.
Oh God.
Which another pair that I would love to see make a pandemic movie. Not right now, but maybe in a couple years. Trey Parker and Matt Smith. Or not Matt Smith.
Matt Stone.
Matt Stone. Although if Matt Smith wants to join him too, why not?
Yeah, he would be a perfect cast, actually.
It would be interesting.
Him and David Tennant. You know, get both Doctor Who's out there.
Yeah.
And I guess Christopher Eccleston will only show up if he's dead or something because he just fucking hates playing that role. But he's an amazing actor, so I'll even take that.
He may have some dicey judgment on occasion, like
I don't know. He's cool.
G.I.
Who knows
Joe.
what happened? Did he do G.I. Joe?
He did G.I. Joe. He was Destro, man.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
I didn't see it.
Yeah,
I didn't want to.
It was about as good as we had any right to expect it to be.
Yeah. It was like watching TMNT. Like, that's cool.
Yeah,
I'm good.
Whatever.
But then, like, to talk about the things the movie got wrong, it seemed like everyone just instantly became a zombie.
Yeah.
Like, when they got infected. Like their whole face just broke out as bloody, like blood's coming out through the eyes on the side, and you know it's meant to shock than it is to be accurate, and it was based on some real life diseases, but multiplied because you know this is 1995. This is meant to be over the top.
The era of extreme.
Yeah.
When you know Jim Carrey could play pretty much any role and it would be tonally appropriate.
Oh my God, yeah. Now we'd play it down, which would be amazing. But yeah, that's what I liked about. So, what did the movie get wrong though? They got the zombie thing.
That any discussion of isolating and destroying all of the infected would be held anywhere near so close to where any infected were able to find out about it. You know, a doctor of the character of Dustin Hoffman's level would never be included on those conversations. It just wouldn't happen.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think like you wouldn't be able to burst into your CO's office, even if he's your old time friend. It's like you gotta
Right.
fucking do this and do it now.
Right.
And then
Right.
you wouldn't
That
have
shit ain't
someone calling
happening.
off an airstrike.
Right.
I mean, they
Yeah.
have done things to that extent in real life with the president, where like if you read Bob Woodward's Fear, they
Oh yeah.
oh you read
Good.
it?
Great book.
It is
Great
so
book.
juicy. It's like there's so many good books now. I was reading Fire and Fury. I had to put it down because even as ridiculous as things are, I could tell the author was making shit up. And then when I read about
I
him,
don't
I'm
know.
like the whole scene where like he's promising Melania that he's not going to become president, and then like election day happens, and that's the
They
one
become-
time he actually looks shocked. It's like I don't know if he was working with all these other entities in order to win. I don't know if he'd be that shocked or was promising his wife that he'd lose, but who knows?
I fully believe that he never expected to actually win.
Yeah, well now he has to, or else he thinks he's going to go to jail. I think the
Well, he
CIA is going to pull him aside, and they're going to say, "Look, as long as you leave and you accept defeat, we won't put you in jail. Okay, just go." But
it's going to be an interesting fall.
yeah,
It's gonna be an interesting fall.
get ready for the revolution. Yeah, but. Yeah, I mean that movie does get a lot wrong, but then again, it knows it's getting stuff wrong, and
Right,
it doesn't
it's-
care.
It's made to be. It's an elaboration done in order to
Yeah.
drive the drama, in order to make us, feel that reaction more viscerally. It's not meant to be taken as 100% truth, and this is how things would happen.
Yeah,
Just like a police investigation doesn't happen like it does in the movie Seven. That's just not reality.
hmm
But it's done in a way to make it feel kind of hyper real.
yeah,
And so we feel more engaged with it from a storytelling standpoint.
yeah.
Oddly enough, life doesn't always work in 3-act cycles.
Absolutely. I mean, if this movie was rewritten in 2020, it would have been Contagion, essentially.
Yeah.
But like a little bit about the cast, I really enjoyed them. Each person was kind of discernible and likable. You had Kevin Spacey being smarmy,
Yep.
but sort of likable Kevin Spacey. It's amazing how many canceled actors are in this film. I think Morgan Freeman to an extent got canceled. Kevin Spacey
Did
got
he?
canceled. Yeah, like he was hitting on some girls on set and stuff like that and being rude. But I don't know.
It's hard to
Yeah.
it's hard to think of anything bad about Easy Reader.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just don't want to accept it. So
At a certain point, it's like, well, I want to hear these case by case basis.
right.
Yes.
Obviously, I want to know the facts, but
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, it's
a shame.
hard for white men to comment on this, but yeah, I mean,
you just
if you look at Kevin Spacey's case, it's like, yeah, he did that shit. You look at Morgan Freeman, it's like, let me see.
how much of that was him just being like overly friendly grandpa man?
Morgan
I don't
Freeman?
know. Yeah.
Maybe.
But I don't, again,
Yeah.
I don't know the details of the situation. And even if I were to read them, I wasn't there. I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
It's
and
too
I'm okay not
complicated.
knowing. I'm
But-
okay not knowing.
But looking at the cast alone, I just liked how individualistic they were. Dustin Hoffman is sort of the Boy Scout, but with a tough attitude. The guy who always
Mhm.
wants to do the right thing and is willing to put himself on the line.
Mhm.
Morgan Freeman is the guy who wants to play by the rules, but has an inner conflict.
Mhm.
Renee Russo is a little flatter. They just kind of make her the love interest in a doctor. That's it. Because like the way
Right.
they wrote Woman back in the 90s, it's
It-
just like, be pretty,
There, it was pretty dicey.
Yeah. And then Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character was just kind of like, just be likable. Yeah, be a doctor, be kind of nerdy.
You know what? He was a lot more
Yeah.
prominent simply because of the charisma of Cuba Gooding Jr. That character,
Oh,
otherwise,
yeah.
is just a background character.
Yeah.
Who's not meant to be all that important. And the fact that Cuba has that on-screen charisma
Yeah.
made the character more resonant.
Yeah, it's just like his character in Pearl Harbor. Like, we remember him more than we remember Ben Affleck or Josh Hartnett. And they
I just-
barely give him anything to do.
I just remember Dan Aykroyd from that movie.
Oh,
That's
God. Who was he again in that? I do remember what you're talking about. They gave him a dramatic role, I remember.
Yeah. Not enough people give Dan Aykroyd dramatic roles, quite honestly.
He is very, I mean, he's one of those people where, as a person, he's so unusual that know, as an actor, he's going to give you something really good.
He can. You put him in the right material, and you're going to have something really, really good. Yeah. You let him create whatever he wants, and you might end up with nothing but trouble.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, again, as someone who works with comedians a lot, that, you know, comedians can act just as well,
if not better.
Yeah, because a dramatic actor can't do comedy, but a comedic actor can do drama.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, what did you think of the cast?
It had some of my favorites. I really liked Morgan Freeman in general as a performer.
Oh yeah.
So having him on screen in a conflicted role was fun. Getting to see Donald Sutherland do a viral disease sort of story again was kind of fun.
Yeah.
You know, and getting to see him opposite Dustin Hoffman in particular is a lot of fun. It's a hugely entertaining movie.
Yeah.
You know, and the cast
never slows the brakes down.
Never. And the cast is pitch perfect in it. It is something you can go back to and watch time and time again because of that.
Yeah. But the best character in that cast, it isn't Morgan Freeman. It isn't Dustin Hoffman. It isn't Cuba Gooding Jr. It isn't Rene Russo. It's the monkey. He's the best. And they trained the hell out of that monkey too.
It was a couple of monkeys too, wasn't it? Like two or three?
From what I read, it was one of them, but it could be two of them.
That makes sense. I mean, yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
To get a performance out of an animal like that, that's really impressive.
And there's a lot of animals in this film.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have fish, you have monkeys, you have dogs, you have everything.
Yeah.
I guess like when they had to shoot him with a trank gun, they basically had to do not a lot of takes. They would just kind of tell him to stay still at certain points, and when he attacks the guy, like, and he scratches his arm, they basically just made him raise his arm and make it look like he was attacking, but he wasn't really doing anything. And when he was freaked out in the pet store, they would just make him laugh in between takes so he wouldn't actually get freaked out.
Oh, that's kind of awesome.
Yeah. So it's kind of like just actors, like when they're laughing in between takes for a dramatic film.
I would love to have the job of telling the monkey jokes between takes.
Oh my God, that'd be hilarious.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah.
How do you specifically make a monkey laugh? What's a monkey's sense of humor?
I don't know. I want
to know that.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I want to know. That's what I've come away from this conversation with. The desire to know what a monkey finds funny.
Yeah, not the pandemic, not, how are we going to survive? It's like, make the monkey laugh. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Monkey. Yeah. God. But yeah, I guess Harrison Ford was originally supposed to play Dustin Hoffman's role, but luckily he got. Yeah. That would have been. I could totally see that too.
Yeah, I can totally see that. It would be a very different movie. It would still be a very good one.
Yeah. Well, I know Dustin Hoffman was sort of like a ghost screenwriter on it and changed a lot of things. Like he didn't like the military helmet. He thought he looked goofy in it, so he didn't wear it in the film. And I think like Dustin Hoffman was kind of like a diva in those days. So but he really brought a lot to the movie. Yeah. Having a dramatic actor kind of put it on a certain level. Yeah, we never really see Harrison Ford in a lot of dramatic work.
No, and he's a decent enough actor. He can do the work. Yeah. I don't know that Outbreak would have the reputation it has for being more dramatic. I think it would have been much more action thriller territory with Harrison Ford.
Yeah, I think putting Dustin Hoffman sort of on that poster made you go, "Oh, what movie is this?" This has to be something a little more serious, and it kind of brings you into it rather than disaster film is Harrison Ford, whatever. Although I just love how the monkey's so prominent on that poster. You have all these A-list stars on the left hand side. The monkey's just like on the right, and it just says he started this outbreak.
It kind of makes me want to see some like Beastie Boys mashups where they retire the
God.
Funky Monkey, the Brass Monkey, you know?
Yeah, the Beastie Boys in that movie, I'm imagining. But if you were to choose between Outbreak and Contagion, which movie would you choose?
I would go with Contagion.
Yeah.
I would go with Contagion. And it's not necessarily because it's a better film.
Yeah.
Although I do think it is. I would say that it connects. I find it easier to connect with.
Yeah.
And easier to, even before we all started actually living it, I found the tone with which Contagion was told easier to connect with than the more bombastic tone of Outbreak, which is still fun.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, it doesn't get to that unease quite as well as Contagion does.
Contagion's, I would certainly recommend it as well over Outbreak because it's a much more longer lasting film.
Yeah.
You had to sort of emotionally be in the right place to see it because it's very uncomfortable to watch because of how weird it is. But it's a movie that people will be talking about, before afterwards. Like Outbreak was just popular on Netflix when this pandemic first started and shot to the top 10 on there because, of its relevance. But I don't think people really saw the movie. And then when they saw it, it's a lot easier to digest.
Yeah.
Because of how goofy it is. I mean, you literally have the military shooting missiles at each other with no repercussions.
Right.
And the helicopters passing over each other. And oh my God. Yeah.
Seriously, you're one casting choice away from it basically being Broken Arrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which,
this is like a straight up action comedy almost. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Having said that, amazing movies. I really want to get a pet monkey now.
They throw poop.
Yeah, that's the one problem.
Yeah.
God, now that's the way to get infected. Especially if you're yawning at the time.
Oh.
No, thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure.
Yeah. You can check you out of the Neon. I'm going to forget everything now.
Neon Movie Bunker. So if you go to www.neonmoviebunker.com, you'll find all of our episodes and all sorts of fun stuff. Just check it out and let us know what you think.
All right. Elliot, did I get that right?
El'Ahrai.
Fuck! All right, El'Ahrai.
That's okay. Trust me, you're not the first person to call me Elliot. Happens a lot.
I don't even hide my incompetence anymore. So El'Ahrai, thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
If you want to go to You'll Probably Agree, just go on YPA Reviews. So YPA stands for You'll Probably Agree. Type it in Google, go on the website, you'll find the podcast, you'll find everything there. All right, thanks so much. That's the end of the World Month. Thank God. I don't want to go to October and do political movie month, but all right. Anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and you'll probably agree, hopefully agree. Thank you. Goodbye.
It's figuring us out faster than we're figuring it out.
It's mutated.